welcome to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy. The purpose of Worth the War is rethinking love and relationship and helping people to avoid abuse. Let's take a journey to the UK in quotes and pictures to celebrate the love of Prince Phillip and Queen Elizabeth in the UK. Prince Phillip sadly passed away after being married to Queen Elizabeth for 70 years, the longest living consort of a reigning monarch in the UK. And we are just going to honor them by looking at some of the things we know about their relationship, things that they've shared in quotes, things that people who are close to them have said, and really take that and learn from that. How we can look at the way they approach love and relationship and what we can learn and apply to our own lives. Let's learn from Prince Phillip about love. The hallmark of Worth the War is really rethinking the way we approach love and relationship. And I can't imagine a couple that we could probably learn much more from than one that has made it 70 years and still went to each other first when they needed advice or support. And both of them have said that that was their number one touchstone. They lived 70 years through unimaginable public and private pressure. So let's learn just a little bit about how they came to be the Queen and Prince. They were distant cousins. She noticed him when she was 13 years of age, and the understanding is throughout her entire life there was never another man that captured her eye. He didn't really start to notice her until 1943, at which time the people around in their social group started to see them as a budding romance. She kept a photo on her mantle. He carried a photo with her even as he went off to war. So as this romance continues, in 1946, he actually asks her to marry him, and she said yes without even going to her parents. Just step back and imagine that for a moment. She's the future Queen of England. I think you can imagine that that probably was a bold step for her as a young woman to make that kind of decision without her familial support. And her family backed her up, and it wasn't without some objection. Prince Philip's past was pretty checkered with some issues that could be considered problematic, especially in a time where mental health and other issues, quite frankly, just weren't talked about. They weren't dealt with. We didn't understand them. So there were reasons that there could be objections, but they worked it out and they found their way through. But what I found to be the thing that we can really learn from Prince Philip is that he early on knew, before he married Queen Elizabeth, that there were going to be severe changes in the path of his life, as well as giving up what had been some really important things to him, which would be very important to any human being. And being a man that he was known to be extraordinarily masculine, very much a leader, very much seeing himself as being the person who should be setting the pace for other people, which was very common in that day and age. We aren't going to go deep into some of the things about the royal family and the ways that they handle things and the way that they view the church and how the queen or king would fit into that. But what we can say is this: we know that he knew going into it that when she became queen, he would be walking behind her a few steps. He knew that it was possible that he would have very limited contact with certain people simply based on the fact that he was going to be the Prince of England and the husband of the Queen. He also knew that he wasn't going to be able to go and do his work that he wanted to do in the Navy, which he really loved, and he was sad about leaving that, and he mentioned that in his life. And some of the things that he lost on top of these issues were that he essentially never really got completely over the fact that, as he put it, I'm the only man in Britain whose children will not take his name. And how difficult that would be. So we know going into it that he both understood there would be sacrifice. He knew, of course, that there would be times that he would not be able to do what he wanted as a man, as a person with autonomy, simply because he was choosing to love a woman who would give her life to her country. Having really talked about this and looked at some of the things that we knew that he went into his relationship knowing it was going to cost, let's think about how that prepared him to have a healthy and successful relationship and what we can learn from it. One of the things that he has been quoted as saying is that he really did want a future in the Navy, and that it says here, I thought I was going to have a career in the Navy, but it became obvious there was just no hope. There was no choice. It just happened. You have to make compromises. That's life. I accepted it, and I tried to make the best of it. When you really look at the fact that he had these losses, even though he had great understanding what he was getting into. There were still losses along the way. But as you look at the way that they treated one another and leaned on one another, you see he didn't hold her accountable for those. And we can learn from that. When we walk into a commitment, into a relationship, we, number one, need to know what we're walking into. We need to know that there's going to be sacrifices. And number two, we need to understand that when there are sacrifices we're not aware of, we have to look at that as part of moving together through life, taking turns, being compromising, supporting one another, and that is going to cost something. And in a day and age where the idea of costing something really isn't popular, it's a very good lesson that we can learn from Prince Philip, that sometimes to have the fairy tale, you're going to have the sacrifice. We're going to complete this video really learning from the quotes that both the Queen and Philip have given us over time so that we can have an insight into what it is to build a relationship that lasts 70 years. Here's a quote from the then just Philip to Princess Elizabeth in 1946. "To have been spared in the war and seen victory, to have been given the chance to rest and to readjust myself, to have fallen in love completely and unreservedly, makes all one's personal and even the world's troubles seem small and petty." Another quote that really gives us a little bit of insight was from Lord Charteris, the private secretary to the Queen. He said, "Prince Philip is the only man in the world who treats the Queen simply as another human being. He's the only man who can. Strange as it may seem, I believe she values that. It is one reason why their love story resulted in such a long-lasting relationship." At the Queen's silver wedding speech, she had a very profound thing to say. "If I am asked what I think about family life after 25 years of marriage, I can answer with equal simplicity and conviction. I am for it." The Queen said this at the Diamond Jubilee. "During these years as your Queen, the support of my family has, across the generations, been beyond measure. Prince Philip, I believe, well known for declining compliments of any kind, but throughout has been a constant strength and guide." And this will be our last quote. It's from the Queen in 2002 at the Golden Jubilee. "I take this opportunity to mention the strength I draw from my own family. The Duke of Edinburgh has made an invaluable contribution to my life over these past 50 years, as he has to so many charities and organizations with which he has been involved." The Queen is not known for being a terribly emotional individual, but it is very clear by the way they treat one another, look at one another, and have lived and supported one another for 70 years, that their marriage worked. They came into it knowing what they could know, they adapted to what they had to adapt to, and they lived out the fairy tale of their life with a full knowledge of what reality actually is. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons that Prince Philip has left us about what it means to love well and what it means to take a relationship, make it a priority, and learn from it. I hope you've enjoyed this look into the royal marriage, and I hope that you will join our community, like and subscribe and engage with us. Join our community so that we can prepare people for healthier love and relationship and help them avoid abuse. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.